And welcome back, everyone. As you can tell with the psychedelic background, I'm going to be doing an album ranking. And this one is from the band Genesis, as you can tell by the title. This was requested by a viewer several videos back. I can't even remember. I tried to look and see which video it was where they commented and suggested this. Mainly because I had suggested in the past that I never was a major Genesis fan, even though I love prog, and Genesis is a quintessential prog band. But I did go back over the past few weeks, and I have reintroduced myself to this band, and I will have to admit that I have come away with a deeper appreciation for Genesis. So let's just get started on the album rankings. Coming in last place is going to be 1997's Calling All Stations. Now, I'm not ranking this because it's a bad album. It's basically stock AOR pop. It's not bad, it's not good. It's just kind of very repetitive, like something I might put on in the background if I'm doing something. There is a hit song off of it, Congo. A lot of people know that one. I do enjoy that song, and there are several little decent songs on this album. Dividing Line. But overall, yeah, it's not really, I don't really consider it as much Genesis. It doesn't have Gabriel and it doesn't have Phil Collins on it. But, it's a decent album for what it is. And you'll probably hear me use that phrase a lot. But it does come in last place because it is basically just a generic. Next is the album Abacab, 1981. Not a fan of the production. Not a fan of this 80s kind of Casio keyboard sound. You've heard me describe it in the Roger Waters, when I did the Pink Floyd solo album rankings with Roger Waters and Radio Chaos. Don't like that. Don't like that sound. It's not a terrible production, but it's kind of tinny, and I don't like that. But, I suppose if I did like that bubblegum sound, it's a bit better than Calling All Stations. There's really not a standout track on this album for me. Unlike Calling All Stations, that does have a standout track. Abacab is just kind of a mess to me. But again, overall, as a Genesis album, it's slightly better than Calling All Stations, in my opinion. Next is the 1991 album We Can't Dance. There's some kind of groovy songs on here, I suppose. Pop hits, of course. Collins and Genesis are great at this, creating pop hits, whereas Gabriel and Genesis were more the creative prog sort of process. Genesis with Collins created more pop hits, and there's nothing wrong with pop hits. They are what they are, and they're good, for what they are. I warned you about that phrase. So, but yeah, the thing about this album, there are some serious issues that are mentioned on this album. No Son of Mine, for example, they attack organized religion with Jesus He Knows Me, the sort of the televangelist racket that goes on. But it's just, it's just mixed with sort of a boatload of cheesiness. You had I Can't Dance, which is a terrible song. Ugh. This is god awful. So it's not going to rank very, very good in this list. I don't listen to it at all, really. I mean, I don't even listen to the songs that I have hailed here. So, moving on. All right, now we're going to go to 1978's And Then There Were Three. That might surprise you that I've ranked it so low. I actually do listen to this from time to time, but just not a big fan. I mean, it's got a few good tracks, Down and Out, Mother Lode's good, and then, it's got the hit, Follow Me. It's okay. Good for what it is. But I like a few albums a bit better. And one of the albums I like a little bit better, this is gonna maybe aggravate a few Genesis fans, but 1986 Invisible Touch. I mean, really, this is a great pop album. I'm just not a fan of kind of the plastic 80s sound. Anybody that's listened to my videos has kind of gathered that. I never could embrace that. I just don't like it. I don't like the cheap plastic sound, the keyboards of the 80s. Really, I mean, a lot of bands, it just, I don't know. I hate gated drums. Not good. But, this album's chock full of hits, and it really should be commended for that, because that's not easy to write pop hits. You think, well, it's not that hard, if it's not that hard, why don't you go out and do it? I mean, seriously, it's not easy to write one hit, much less an album full of hits. And so Phil Collins is very good at that. And the rest of the guys, Mike Rutherford, very good at that. So Invisible Touch, 1986. Not crazy about the title track, but I do like Land of Confusion. I think Tonight is a very dark, minimalist pop song. I do enjoy that. Throwing It All Away. I mean, really, there are some really catchy songs on this album, so it is to be commended for that. 1983, Genesis is next. I can enjoy this for the most part. It's a little less cheesy than the others previously mentioned. And it does have some quality tracks, 4 that I really enjoy. And I don't really want to mention like all the songs on all the albums, but it's like, Home is good, Mama, That's All. But my favorite, Silver Rainbow, really enjoy that song off this one. Again, Genesis, it's still that 80s pop sound, but it's not as grating on my nerves as the later albums would be. So Genesis, That's All is a really, a lot of people talk about Mama being, I enjoy Home a little bit better than Mama, but I also enjoy That's All, and like I said, Silver Rainbow takes the cake for me here. Next is Duke, or however you pronounce it. Here in the South we say Duke. I'm sure up north it's Duke. But, okay. 1980s Duke. The general theme of this album, combined with the implementation of the prog elements into the pop atmosphere, the pop songs, makes it a pretty solid album. It's very introspective, yet it's very entertaining at time. Well, entertaining, but it's a good album. It's a breakup album. It's a very personal album, I think, for Phil and the guys at the time. I think they were going through a lot. Most of the songs are good. Duke's Travels, Heath A's, and the fantastic Misunderstanding. I know it's the radio hit, but I'm serious. This is just a very good song. What a great pop classic song. Again, people don't give Phil Collins his due when it comes to writing a pop hit, but he's one of the best pop songwriters to exist. I mean, he is that good. You don't write that many pop hits being, untalented. So next, this is to be a bit controversial, but this album, gets a bad rap, and I don't understand why. It's called Genesis to Revelation, 1969. Okay, so people say, well, this is Genesis, before they were Genesis. This album doesn't even count. I mean, Genesis didn't even put it in one of their box sets. I mean, it's just like people trying to ignore this album. Oh, it didn't exist, but it did exist. And you know what? So what? It's a bunch of schoolboys making an album. People say that. Well, it's really them, just a bunch of schoolboys making an album. Yeah, but my gosh, I mean, it was a bunch of schoolboys making an album in 2 days that is phenomenal. For these people these young kids to be able to make an album like this, to where every song is listenable and even enjoyable. It has elements of the Moody Blues to it. You don't take, a bunch of kids and say, oh, well, this is no good. I mean, it sounds like the Moody Blues. I love it. I mean, I would rank this album higher if it weren't for the shoddy production. I really enjoy it. I listen to this album more than I do the next 3 or 4, to be honest with you. So, Genesis to Revelation would rank higher if it weren't for the production. So that takes us to Trespass, 1970. Much better production, much tighter, much more complex music here. I think Genesis came into it here. White Mountain, Stagnation, and the incredible The Knife. Although I listened to Genesis to Revelation more than I do this album, The Knife surpasses anything off that debut album. It's that good. We'll move on. Trick of the Tail, 1976. This was Genesis's answer to Loss of Peter Gabriel. Has some quality tracks here, including Squonk. I really like that one. Although every song here has merit. Again, it's a solid production, just like Trespass. Genesis scores some points here to keep it going after Gabriel had left. It's a very decent offering. Every song on it is a quality song. And, from now on, every song on the album is going to be... I'm not going to mention a lot of songs off the albums anymore because most of the songs are really good. But the album that comes in a little bit ahead of it, made the same year, is this one, Wind and Wuthering. I like this one a bit more than Tail, and it seems a bit darker to me. I will name a couple of songs off of this one. I do enjoy 11th Earl, Special Way, and Gorilla. This album is melancholic. It's beautiful. It's a very relaxing album, yet complex too. Steve Hackett has some masterful guitar parts. The piano dominating many tracks makes this a very reflective album. And so it's where it's at. Coming in ahead of that is 1971's Nursery Crime. What can I say here? Musical Box is one of the most incredible pieces of music to exist. Nursery Crime, the album cover kind of, I don't really too much care for it, although it does appeal to me a little bit. It's just the music on it doesn't, I don't think the album cover reflects the music to me. That's my opinion. But, not here for the album cover. This is an entire album that is a force to be reckoned with. I listen to it more than Foxtrot, actually, which I'll be talking about. But every song off this album is a gem. I would have to go through and name all of them, and I'm just not going to do that because you just need to pick this album up and listen to it. It is a powerful Genesis album. I think it's more powerful than Foxtrot, with the exception of Supper's Ready, of course. And speaking of Foxtrot, it does come in next at number 3. This usually comes in number 1 or number 2 to most people. But honestly, I don't listen to this album any more than I do Nursery Crime. I might even, and I know this is blasphemous, listen to Genesis to Revelation more than this one. I mean, I'm not saying it's better. Obviously, I ranked Foxtrot way over that album, but but this is a Genesis diamond as far as music is concerned, and the concepts and the lyrics and just everything. Supper's Ready, of course, is the magnum opus of the band, and although it's not my favorite Genesis song, I give this masterpiece its due, and that's exactly what it is, a progressive masterpiece. But Foxtrot is, I mean, what more can you say about it? A lot of people's going to rank it number 1, and I don't blame them. It's a great album. Coming in at number 2 is Selling England by the Pound, 1973. I wanted to put this number 1 just due to the superior music, especially Steve Hackett's guitar work, and the atmosphere of this album, the songs on this album. I mean, every song on this album is a great song, great to, excellent. It's a legendary album for a reason. It's an essential progressive rock album. Firth of Fifth might be my favorite Genesis song. It's definitely my favorite Genesis guitar solo. The emotion in this guitar solo is David Gilmour-esque. Such a powerful album. Every song just oozes, if I can use that word, emotion and talent and everything. I mean, this album is a progressive epic, but it is my number 2 album just because my number 1 album is the epic to me. The double album, 1974's The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Wow. I mean, I was introduced to this at a young age in my teenager years, but I really wasn't into that kind of music at the time, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But as going back and revisiting it, I have to admit this is one of the most outlandish concepts ever. I mean, if someone had come up to me and said, we're going to create a concept, regarding this Puerto Rican kid, and, it's just like, I would have been like, yeah, okay. But, man, what an album. What an album. I mean, this album is full of killer tracks. Every song off this album I like. Well, almost every song. But, I mean, I would rank almost every song an 8 or a 9, if not a 10. This is a solid, progressive, epic masterpiece by Genesis. What a concept album. What a great double album. Every song is just so necessary, and it's hard to say that about a lot of double albums. Even The Wall has filler, but this is great. I mean, this is my favorite Genesis album. I listen to it way more than any other album, and some of this music is just unbelievable. So I highly recommend The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, my number 1 choice Genesis album. Okay, guys, next I will be doing some more album rankings. I'll be doing Alan Parsons Project album rankings, and I'll be doing Iron Maiden album rankings. Black Sabbath will be coming up soon. So if you like this video, be sure and hit the like button. Share it if you want. Comment. Hey, what are your favorite Genesis albums, and what do you think of my opinion here? So just give me your thoughts, guys, and until next time, take care.